Hello, my name is Joe. This is my third time, I think, to Taipei. And I've been coming here for a lot of impact conferences. This is the first time coming to a blockchain one. Just to give a little background about me, I've been in the nonprofit space for maybe a dozen, 15 years or something like that. And I've worked in the United Nations, then transferred over a little bit to the blockchain space, but also to the K-pop space. And so we started 3 years ago our own K-pop label. Next year, our team is gonna debut in the United States. So if you ever hear about them, yeah, but they're not on NFTs yet, nor are they on blockchain. So, but today I want to talk to you about something that's a big passion of mine, which is to see more effective problem solving in the impact space. Because I've been working in nonprofits for a very long time, and I've been frustrated not because there are bad people in the impact space, but because we lack resources to solve the problems that we need to solve together. So one item and one model that I've been looking into, I know that there was a talk on social impact bonds in the morning. We've been doing social impact bonds about 5 times in Korea, and I wanted to share a little bit of my experience, perhaps some insights, and perhaps opportunities for the blockchain space to bring in essential resources for blockchain to be used in the real world in a way that solves real problems. So let's get into it. Sorry, it's a little wordy, but just to get started, why do we need SIBs? Okay, so SIBs, before I explain what it is, there are problems in this world that need a lot of attention, super important problems, but they're unprofitable, and so nobody really cares about them. The most experienced, the most talented, the best solution providers cannot stay in that space for a long time because it doesn't make money, right? That's the problem. And it's very similar to retro PGFs that we're talking about. The challenge is, how do we make doing something good for everyone else profitable enough so that people could continue to work in the space for a very long time? It's a sustainability issue, okay? And so we're trying to solve this through a very unique model called SIBs. And SIBs, very different from retro PGFs, depend their source of money on tax money, okay? So what SIB really is, in my understanding, is decentralizing the way you use tax money to make it much more effective in delivering the results that we all want. All right, how do we do that? I know it's a very complex model. Just 3 steps, quick and easy. How do SIBs work? We get invested. We propose a proposal. We're going to be doing X and X, and we ask somebody, a rich person or a philanthropic foundation or an investor, to invest in the project, and we use that money to deliver a result. But we had a promise. We already made a promise with a certain government or a certain institution saying, if we meet a certain result, you'll pay us, right? And that's why we got investor money. And so with the success of the project, we're able to give back the original invested money plus interest, okay? That's how SIBs work. How is it different to retro PGFs? For SIBs, we use investors' money. For retro PGFs, usually you use your own money to get a project done and get the results that were promised, and then you get the money back and you keep the money for yourself, okay? That's basically the model for retro PGFs. All right, so these 2 models, how do they fare? They hinge on and many speakers already beat this subject down, but SIBs and RPGFs hinge very largely on how we measure impact. Because unless we're able to measure impact, we cannot go to a government entity and say, we're going to take your money. Because there's an example here. One of the latest projects that we got off the ground is on suicide prevention in Korea. Okay? Korea is #1 in suicide rates. We're not proud of it. And we needed something to do about it, but nobody, I mean, it's not a profitable space at all. And so nobody could really work in that space to prevent suicides. There are many volunteers who are willing to talk to people who are depressed and having a difficult time, but the best professionals who are able to help are not in that space. And so we made a social impact project where we brought in a whole system, an online system where we allowed people to we got into anonymous spaces and we picked out keywords that are dangerous and they're funneled in so that they could get counseling. Now, we had to get money to do this. So we went to a government entity. We showed them, oops, sorry about that. We showed them an indicator, which was alleviation of depression. That was our success indicator. We said, there is a tool called PHQ-9, which is the indicator used by everyone around the world on how to measure depression. It's used on all hospitals. And we said, we did our calculation. It took 70 pages of calculation, by the way, on how much social cost you're able to save if we're able to go up 1 tick on this PHQ-9 scale. Okay? PHQ-9 is a 9-question questionnaire you take within like 2 minutes, and at the end, it asks you how many times have you thought about suicide in the last month. Now, it categorizes you into low risk, medium risk, high risk. And every time you're in the high risk category, and if you're bumped to a medium risk category, the social cost is about $10,000. But if you're bumped up all the way to a not depressed category, then the social cost savings is about $110,000 per person who is bumped up. And through experience, we saw that many people who got counseling for over 8 sessions were able to get bumped up 1 notch or another. So we said, we went to a government entity and said, hey, let's say it was Seoul City. We're going to be approaching 500 people who are high risk, and we're going to be trying to get them to a better place by the end of the year. And we're going to be measuring them before and after intervention. And we're sure that we're able to reach about $18 million of social cost savings. This is our first project, so it's a pilot one. So if we're able to save at least $18 million worth of social cost savings, you're going to be paying the project money plus 14% per year of interest to us. And they said, well, how much are we actually going to pay? We said, you're going to be paying $750,000 and that's it. And they're like, really? For having saved 18 million in social costs? We said, yes, because we do our job better than what the government does, right? And so they couldn't say no because it was a good deal. By the way, if we do not achieve the $18 million, they could pay less. And if we achieve under $800,000, they don't have to pay at all. We're saving taxpayers' money for them. So the government is like, well, this is a no-loss deal for us. So we currently have convinced 19 different government entities in Korea to do this. And they're like lined up right now to work with us on social impact bonds. What is important though in order to take tax money to do SIBs? Number 1, measurement needs to be easy. PHQ-9 takes 2 minutes and we could get accurate results. Number 2, the measurement needs to be publicly recognized. Everybody uses PHQ-9 around the world. And lastly, the social cost calculation needs to be agreed on by the outcome payers or the outcome payer, right? Okay, so what are some notable SIBs around the world? Just very quickly, SIBs were 2010. I'm sure you heard of this already, but they did this in the UK. It's a 5-year program, 5 million pounds, and when succeeded, the investors would get about 3% of interest per year, which is very measly. What happened then, let me just go because of time, is in Korea, we translated this model and we put it on blockchain. Why do we put it on blockchain? For many reasons. Number one, once people are tied into an investment of 5 years, they can't get the money back for 5 years, and there's a liquidity problem. So what we did was we took the whole process, we put it into smart contracts in the Ethereum using Solidity, and everything got automatic. And secondly, we were able to tokenize the contracts themselves and made it able to be traded. Unfortunately, our users or our investors were not too familiar with blockchain, so it never got traded throughout the whole 5 years. But again, this is only because this model has not been developed closely with the blockchain community, and I'm here presenting this in hopes that we're able to connect to potential partners who can further develop this to introduce it the right way to the blockchain community so that we could have more liquidity, actual trading of the contracts that are being done through us. Now, another thing is nobody really traded it for us, but once it could get traded, we could do cross-border investments, and we don't have to be restricted to just Korean investors in Korea who institutional investors are looking at this and going, this is a very new product. I don't know, they're very conservative, by the way. And so we do need to have access to other types of money that is interested in doing social impact. So, what kind of projects did we do so far? We had two projects that ended successfully. One that is ending next year, and they're on track, so it's gonna be a success, highly likely. We have two projects that were created post 2020. Unfortunately, we had some, the whole Korean economy had some issues in money being moved around, and that's post-COVID. And so we actually don't have the investments. We have all the money from the government set up, ready to be deployed. They're in our banks, just no investors. So we have one project on youth employment, second on the suicide prevention, that is. And if you look at the interest rates, we were able to raise it much higher than the global average, and even higher on the last one because we were having the interest rate hike was so high that we needed to also push up ours. It's 14% per year for us. That is, I think, like a global high. I've never seen it that high. Now, this is the last page, and I wanted to emphasize the opportunity and the potential for the growth of SIBs. SIBs are an incredible, innovative way to solve social problems that hinges on the fact that the government is doing their job incredibly inefficiently. We are banking on the fact that the government is not going to do their job well. And this is just a fact. I've worked in the United Nations. I've worked with 193 governments around the world, and most of them, if not all of them, could be labeled as inefficient, okay? Now, there's a lot of reasons for that, but what is important is that SIB is able to take the same government tax money, go to the government and say, listen, there's a better way to do this with better people, better incentives in a decentralized way where we could solve real problems in a measurable way and only pay tax money when the results are delivered, okay? So when we look at the average state, the way they're doing it, goal setting, quite vague. Yeah, it is set on paper, but it's still vague. Incentives, I say misaligned because usually governments just really want to spend the money instead of getting the results out. Executions could be satisfactory or not. It's a risk, it's a gamble. Measurement, most of the time these days in improved states, they're measured, but the measurement is also quite arbitrary. The reason I say it's arbitrary is because the extent that we go to create our measurement calculation, we went 70 pages, 80 pages into one measurement. That is not the level that governments are going to set in their indicators for every project that they do. And so I'm not trying to say SIB is the best thing for the world. I'm just saying it's a much more efficient way to be able to spend government money. And total global government expenditure is $35.6 trillion. And that's not for the 4 years. It's because data doesn't exist for many countries in many years. So global expenditure is 35.6 trillion. It's about 40% of GDP in most countries. SIB could utilize a lot of diversified funding sources, including utilizing the monies that have interest in the blockchain communities. We do need to further establish SIB as an asset class because it's not something that has been introduced to the markets yet. Once we get governments to lock in the money needs to be stored somewhere. And we would love that money to be stored on blockchain so that it could be trusted, it could be put on escrow, and once conditions are met, that it could be released, calculated, and released automatically. We actually have, going back, oops. Oh no, I'm out of battery. Okay, so we actually have all of that programmed and open sourced for everyone to use. So if you, sorry, the slide's not moving. If you Google Smart SIB source code, then you could get it. It's already open for all of you to use and utilize. You could customize it for your own use, but we've done it, we've used it, and we're releasing it for everyone else. But if you, I'll stick around after this talk. I'd love to connect with any of you who are interested in the details. Also, if you know of anyone in this space who I should be talking to, very happy to be connected. Thanks, everyone.